All right, it's Keegan, and we are back here at the Kentucky Welding Institute. I've been visiting schools here lately and finally have got to come back here to KWI to help teach, do a couple videos, and catch up with some guys that are brushing up for some upcoming union weld tests, all right? So these guys have been on the road, I think, since 2019, and they came back for their free lifetime brush up here at KWI. So we're going to stop in their booth, check out what they're practicing on, what job they're going to, and get a little bit of information from them on what it's like being out in the welding industry. So let's get it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get in the shop today. These guys are brushing up in the instructor booth. So working on a little bit of 2-inch TIG and stick. We'll let these guys introduce themselves.
So the main thing that I like about KWI is that even though I stayed at the house, it's given me so much more of an opportunity to explore new careers and stuff. So for instance, when I went into Borla, I didn't have to step in as just a production welder. I got to go in the fabrication department and learn under a lot of guys who taught me a lot of different stuff. So while I was in the fabrication department, I had the opportunity to work with the maintenance department as well. That was something I wanted to add to my resume. So they wanted a welder on the maintenance crew, and so I decided to go in there. So I was a fabricator and a maintenance guy at Borla for a little while. And while I was there, they also wanted somebody to be able to do some engineering work for them. So that company actually sent me to school with TCAS, so that way I could go in the computer-aided drafting and design program. So I did that for a little while and completed that course and stuff and really enjoyed it. And so now I'm just deciding that since I've got all this other stuff on my resume, that I'd kind of like to just explore what it would be like going on the road.
Gotcha. So, well, it's opened up so many doors for you.
Yeah. It's not like when you graduate from KWI, you don't have to immediately go on the road. There's a ton of different opportunities that I've had just from going to KWI, especially from my rigger and signaler certification. That's taken me a really, really long ways. And it's just been a blast so far. I've really enjoyed it. So I'm just wanting to go out there and see what all my buddies are talking about enjoying the road.
My name is Zach Cutting. I'm from Simpsonville, Kentucky, and I'm here with Gunner Crow out of Gray, Tennessee. And we're here brushing up. I'm helping Gunner out because he's a good friend of mine. So when we first came here, started out on some 2-inch, 6-inch standard wall TIG out. And we've moved on to some 2-inch Schedule 80 TIG and stick combo. He's getting ready to test in with the union out of Johnson City, Tennessee. So yeah, we're just running out some coupons using the brush up that KWI lets us use. We get 2 weeks every year, and this is our 4th day here.
Gotcha. So you guys graduated in 2019?
I graduated in 2020, May of 2020 to be specific.
Okay.
I believe Gunner graduated a month or 2 after myself.
Gotcha. Okay. So ever since then, you both have been on the road. Or Gunner here didn't hit the road, but you did.
Yes. I went out and traveled, and Gunner went and got a job at Orla Exhaust in the
Close to
Johnson
home.
City. I'm sorry?
Close to home.
Yeah, close to home.
Gotcha.
And so with him not having hit the road and mostly doing fabrication, I don't want to say lost all of his skills, but a lot of it just got mixed in with a lot of other stuff. So
Gotcha.
we're brushing him up, bringing him back up to the standard that KWI set for him while he was here, and he's been doing really, really well. I think that he's going to be ready to take that test.
Gotcha. So you hit the road,
Correct.
and then Gunner here stayed home and made good money close to the house.
Yes.
So there's different ways that you can use welding to your advantage, whether you want to travel or whether you want to stay close to home.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, what did you start out on your first day here? Did you go straight to 2-inch, or what did you guys do? You ramped up to it?
Yeah, so I knew that Gunner was going to be rusty, and I knew that the whole idea with me coming to help him was to kind of impart some of the knowledge, tips, and tricks that I'd learned in my 3 years and 9 months since I got out. So we started him out with 6-inch standard wall in a 2G position, which is horizontal. And Gunner had said that that was what he had struggled with the most when he was here. So we figured start him out at the hardest point, 2G.
Gotcha.
And start him out at the hardest point and kind of move back from there. So we did 6-inch 2G, then we did a 6-inch 5G, and when I was confident to the point that I felt like we could move on to 2G, 6G, because 6G is a combination of both of them. You get your vertical right here, while also having to feed that wire to the top bevel. It's a funky combo of both. So once we got him comfortable in both of those positions, we gave him the 6G on the test that he was going to be taking.
Okay, all right. So you didn't just ramp straight up into this. You had to build momentum to get to this point.
Correct.
Gotcha. And like I always tell people, sometimes, with welding, if you don't do it for a while, you lose it for just a little bit, and then it just takes maybe a couple days to get it back, and that's why that brush up's so important. So
the muscle memory will always be there, even if you haven't done it. Like for Gunner, this is 3.5 years of not welding pipe, and in 4 days we've got him back to the point that we're both pretty confident that he's going to be able to pass that UA test.
Gotcha. Now, does he have a plan B in mind, or just like another test lined up, or is this mainly the main goal right now? Because he is pretty comfortable at the house welding, but why is he going towards the union, I guess?
The main idea of going towards the union is not only for the how the union backs you up and like takes care of you, I guess you could say, but also the benefits. The benefits is a really big thing that a lot of people tend to think about going union. That benefit, the retirement, is huge. If you're a non-union worker and you either don't get in with a company that will give you those benefits and that insurance, or you don't pay into it yourself, like myself, I have a Roth IRA that I pay into.
Yeah, me too.
And I max it out as quick as I can, as often as I can. If you don't pay into that, when you hit 65 or whenever you decide to retire, you're on your own with whatever you've saved up.
Right.
So the union is a very appealing option that you don't have to pay into that. They pay into it with the scale that comes off the top of your pay.
Gotcha. And one of the cool things here is we don't mind if you go union or non-union. So the students are free to choose whatever they want to do. So, which is pretty sweet. So, and you got your rig truck here, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You mind if we go check that thing out and maybe just talk about your history in welding?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. Let's do that.
All right, so this is my rig truck here. When I first started out welding, I'd always seen the guys on Instagram with the rig trucks out on a right-of-way, and that's really what inspired me to get into welding. I told myself, it was like, I want to travel, and I want to do that. So when I graduated in 2020, hit a couple single-hand jobs there for a little while, and then decided, I'm going to start getting a rig truck together. So bought this machine from United Rentals. It's a 2016 300R Pro. I call it the Baby Pipe Pro because it has exactly the same features. I have guys with similar generation Pipe Pros, and they say that there's zero difference. So I've got that. I don't have my bottles on it right now, but usually I'll set up an argon bottle in there, an oxygen bottle in there, and then an acetylene bottle on the other side. Lead wells right there. I set my truck up a little bit different from some other guys that do strictly pipelining. Like this would be like torches, levels, all that stuff, and then the helper box would be over there. I set this up as very similar. So I've got like levels, a lot of squares in here, and then over in here I do rollout wheel right here. Then over here I keep a lot of my TIG rig stuff. Because I do a lot of alloys while I'm also running off of my truck.
So you try to find jobs where you can run your truck to do single hands, like uphill stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of low high, but I made this analogy earlier that a lot of pipeliners won't be rig welders, but rig welders can pipeline. So when I say that, it's in the sense of like I can do a lot of stainless, chrome, Inconel, a lot of those more specialty alloys right off of the back of my truck because I know how to TIG weld and I'm very proficient in that skill.
So you thought it was important to learn how to weld different alloys, whenever, because you obviously wanted to do rig welding with the truck, but you figured it'd be better to learn how to do different alloys and metals and materials as well as have a truck, because then you can do everything with the truck.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's a good game plan.
Yeah. So then I've got jack box in there, and then I also keep a 9-inch grinder in there because it's too big to go in the saddlebags. Over here, rod box. So
If I do any 1099 or contract work where they do require that you supply your own consumables, I'll keep them in there. And then a acetylene tank goes right here. And then most jobs that you go on will require you to carry a fire extinguisher on your vehicle somewhere. So a lot of guys will do another hole right here that they'll put the fire extinguisher right next to their acetylene tank. I was lucky enough that I had a mount already on my machine because I bought it used, so I've just been running with the tiny fire extinguisher.
Gotcha. Now, I know the Miller 400s are pretty quiet. Is this one decently quiet too?
It's I'm not gonna say that it's loud, but it's not like if you're running next to a guy that has a SA200 and he fires his machine up, you know it. It sounds very similar to a lot of the generator machines that you would be working with, like maybe not on a truck, like off of a truck like I do, but if you have a contractor that you're out in Iraq and you're not able to have access to power, they'll supply you with a rental machine on a trailer. So you back it up, and you'll usually have a helper on the ground that you can holler to, or if you want to go on and plug into the remote receptacle, you could bring your remote up in the rack with you, and you won't even have to have a ground helper at that point. You'll just be able to adjust your heat from right there.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so we are in the cab of the rig truck, and we wanted to talk about finances. So I'm curious because I did non-union work for the last couple years, so I had to do my own Roth IRA and I did my own mutual funds. Now, what is your guys' story about investing? So you want to go ahead and do your part, or you can, whoever wants to go first. So what have you done investing wise for what, the last 3 years?
3 years.
Okay.
So as far as financials, I took the initiative to meet with a financial advisor, and they went through setting me up with a Roth IRA, and as far as like how much I can contribute, and then like what the cutoff is, because if you contribute too much, there's weird taxes that
Roth.
Correct.
Yeah, the max you can do this year is $7,000.
7,000.
Yeah.
And then as far as like putting money back for savings, I use my savings account as like an emergency fund, as well as just putting money, like additional money back. So I know that I need to have, most people say 3 to 6 months worth of emergency savings. Like for whatever reason, if you get hurt, you can't go and work, you need to have money to be able to keep up on your bills.
Correct. Now, do you have that in cash or in the bank?
I have that in the bank.
Gotcha. Okay. Is that something I'm thinking about? Like, I'm curious about like the emergency fund. What if crap hits the fan? Do you want it in the bank? Because all mine's in the bank.
Correct.
I'm thinking about taking at least maybe half of that in cash. I don't know. I'm just curious.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to have
Some of it cash.
Yeah, like $5,000 to $10,000 in cash, and just like put that in a safe somewhere in the house, and that is the true, like, if all else fails,
Right.
that is the money that you can use to pay off your bills. Another thing that I've been thinking about as far as bills go is, like, in my eyes, there is no better feeling than having no bills.
Correct.
So as much as the building game is, it's all show, and it's all like who can be the biggest and baddest at any given time. Like, so you see all these guys running around in brand new trucks with a $1,200 payment if their credit's screwed up, or maybe better, maybe worse. But in my opinion, you don't need that. Does a 10-year-old truck function as well as a brand new truck? It depends. In my eyes, it does. And having that lower payment or no payment at all feels really, really good. Not knowing that you have to pay that off, and it lowers your running costs, so that, like I was mentioning earlier, if you do hit that 3 to 6 month period where you're out of work, you get hurt for whatever reason, something with family comes up, that it like I said, it lowers your running costs. So now, instead of like the payments, the food, the fuel, now it's just food and fuel, or food, fuel, lodging, whatever each individual person's
Right.
situation is.
Right. Gotcha. And that's the thing too. You see a lot of welders, they are $5,000, $7,000 a month in debt. And so if you can make the big money in the welding industry, and it's out there is a lot of money to be made. We get texts every day about welding jobs. There's a lot of money to be made, and if you're smart with it, you can set yourself up for later on in life where you don't have to work as much or as hard as you normally would if you just blew it all.
Yeah.
So,
and that $5,000 to $7,000 a month in payments puts a lot of pressure on you as, for most of us, the breadwinner of the family, that
Right.
you have to stay on the road, you have to stay traveling, you have to stay working.
stay hooked up.
Yeah.
Stay hustling. Stay working. What if you get a layoff? Then you're freaking out.
Yeah. And then, I mean, a lot of times if you get in good with a crew that just rolls from turnaround, outage, to shutdown, to, if you're really lucky, you can get on some new construction, you can stay busy that way. But sometimes you don't have that. And, you know, if you don't worry as much about having the best and newest of the stuff, that once you hit the point in your career where your career has taken off, you are making that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, sometimes $7,000 a paycheck,
Yep.
that you can go out and you can treat yourself, and you can, you know, either put more money down or just buy it outright and have that exuberant payment to make.
Right.
Yeah, so the main reason that I'm wanting to go on the road now is because working at the home has been nice, but it's kind of been one of those things where I've always got to work. You know, I'm making like decent money, especially just because like my career is welding, so it's a little bit more of a high-paying job around the house. But at the same time, too, I have to work all the time, 12 months of the year. So with welding, kind of my idea is I can go and I can hit some higher-paying jobs once I start getting better at welding and stuff, and my career starts taking off a little bit more. And then I'll have more of a flexibility in my schedule to where I can be at the house a little bit longer if I want to, and I can spend more time with the family, but I'm still making more money than I would have if I had been staying at my job all year long, just at the house. And one thing that's really important to note, too, is while they were talking about having an emergency fund, just so that way, like, say if you get laid off, you don't have to panic because you've got some of that money. That's kind of the situation I'm going through right now. I've put some money back, and so since I've done that, now since I'm kind of looking at going on the road and stuff, I kind of have a little bit more free time, not as much stress, because I can fall back on that cash to get me until I can get on my first job. And one of the big things to note, too, is that if you're running low on money, even though you might go and you might get like a higher paying job somewhere, there's still going to be another week at least in your pay before you actually get paid. So that's one reason to like make sure that you have an emergency fund.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because getting to the job, you'll work a whole week before you get your check. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then, you know, that can be kind of dicey for people
Yeah.
at times. But then the cool thing is when you leave that job, the next week you get that last big check with your travel out pay,
Yeah.
which is great too. So it's just a different way to, you know, that's things to think about when you're traveling welding. Yeah, I mean, you know, you may need an emergency fund just in case you get really low on money to get to the job. So
Yeah. And like Gunnar was saying, there is going to be that week span where until that next check hits. And like for myself living in Kentucky, let's say that I've got to roll to West Texas, New Mexico, and I've got a fifth wheel camper that I pull with my truck, and I average about 10 miles to the gallon. So I've got to fill up about every 300 miles if I really want to push it. So I know that it's going to take me at least 4 to 5 tanks worth of fuel at, depending on what fuel costs are, at least probably $100 to $120 a fill up. So it's going to take $1,500 to $2,000 just to get out there.
and then you've still got a weld test, you know, sometimes, and then also you got to pay for your hookup too.
Yeah.
And sometimes they want a down payment. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like the month's worth right up front. So there's a lot of different variables that come into having a rig truck and taking a camper versus a small car. But also some of this was just understanding, you know, sometimes don't put yourself in a bind to where you're really low on money and then you're hoping you make it to the job and pass the weld test.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't even have to go out and buy a truck. I just got off a job with a guy and he drove a Prius with nearly 300,000 miles on it from Brownsville, Texas. And he is probably one of the most financially responsible people that I've ever worked with. Like, he's got investments in real estate, he's building homes, he has rental properties, and he drives a 300,000 mile I think it was like a late 2000s model Prius.
Gotcha.
And he doesn't have any shame in it, and his bills are so minimal.
Right.
And he gets 50 miles to the gallon. And from Brownsville, Texas, his drive was 20 hours, and I'd bet he spent no more than $200, maybe $300 in fuel.
Just getting to the job. Yeah. Because Brownsville, that's way down there in Texas, isn't?
It's the
NASA's down there, right?
Yeah. SpaceX.
SpaceX.
It's
yeah.
the southernmost tip of Texas.
Gotcha. Right.
One thing that I'd like to say too is like, while I would like to have a big truck and stuff like all the other guys on the job site, I drive a Prius right now, and I drove from Tennessee all the way up to, what is it, Shelbyville? Simpsonville. I drove from Johnson City, Tennessee to Simpsonville and then down to KWI on $25 worth of gas. And I can fit all my tools in there, all my clothes, really everything that I need. So, I mean, unless I plan on going and rigging out, I don't necessarily have to have a truck right now at this point in time in my career. So I'm getting to save a lot of money. And the way I look at it is like, you know, a lot of guys, they laugh because you're driving a Prius. And it is kind of funny. But at the same time, too, all that money that I'm saving, I'm able to put more into my investments and more into, like, my own, like, IRA and stuff. So at one point in time, like, whenever I do decide to buy a truck, next time I can buy it in cash rather than having to get a loan from a bank and have a large payment and stuff. So that just all revolves back to the thing of being financially stable.
Right. It just depends on, you know, pulling yourself out and looking at the long-term picture. Where do I want to be in 10 years? I'm not going to get there. So, you know, different goals, different things require you to do different things.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I struggled with straight out of welding school, too. I mean, because everybody knows you're welding. Everybody expects you, like he said, to be the breadwinner of the family. So, I mean, a lot of people think you have a lot of money. So I was trying to fit that image. Like, that was one thing out of school I wanted to fit was I wanted to be the guy that was always rolling around in a nice car, having a lot of fun, and being able to go and spend a lot of money. And I soon realized that that doesn't help you out. Like, you know, you'll go into debt fast. So I had to make sure I could straighten myself out from that. And then once I started doing that and starting getting more financially stable, I mean, I've been more happier knowing that I can pay for things with cash and not have debt and not have to put it on a credit card than I was when I was able to go out and just, like, act flashy and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, being financially stable has become one of the things that's, like, more important to me. And then that goes back to going on the road, man. I mean, it's crazy the amount of money that you can amass, like, in just a month's time.
Right.
Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, 5 months on the road, I mean, I'm going to make, like, probably more than I would make in a single year.
A single year, right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with welding is you can work, you know, 5 to 8 months out of the year and make more than you did working every day all year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know a lot of guys that run boiler outages in coal plants and gas plants, and they may only work 6 months out of the year, but that 6 months that they're working doing tubes and plant work is making their annual salary or annual income, whatever that may be, but that they're able to survive on it.
and that's the thing too is just, you know, with welding, there's so many different options that you can go, so many routes that you can go with what type of work you want to do and what you can do with your money financially. So that's just the great thing that I've enjoyed about welding, and also I'm sure Zach and Gunnar can attest to that too, is just welding's probably one of the best stepping stones out there in life right now, because it's always going to be there, it pays good, and not a lot of people are getting into it nowadays. So
I don't know what the exact number is, but last I looked, I think the AWS is projecting that there's at least going to be a 500,000 person shortage on welders in our industry.
This year it's 200,000 or 270,000, and by the year 2026 that's going to be 300,000.
Okay.
So there's a big shortage right now, and they're paying for it, so which is a cool thing.
Yeah. These companies right now are just throwing money left and right. So if there's ever a time to get into it, it's right now.
Right now, for real. It's because when I started 5 years ago, it was, you know, you can still get on some jobs, but right now is golden for getting in the industry, especially the spring and the fall of this year, 2024. Dude, so much work.
Yeah. And especially for the students that are about to get out. I've talked to a couple of the guys that are about to graduate, and I mean, most companies right now are in pre-down, but if they're not in pre-down, they're starting shutdown. So it's the season that I was talking about, and so the guys that are currently hooked up are going to be hooked up for the next 2 to 3 months.
Solid.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like 7/12s worth of 2 to 3 months. And so I've handed out a couple numbers to those guys, and hoping that they're able to make it big out there.
Sweet.
And that's it, guys, for today's video. If you like this video, give us a comment and subscribe to stay tuned to our updates about KWI and past graduates coming into brush up. Thanks. Again, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also that like button as well. And if you want to stay up to date on our notifications, go ahead and click the bell button, because we upload videos every week that are very helpful for welders in the welding industry. So let's get to today's video.